Today we're going to be discussing the selection tools that you can find in Adobe Photoshop Elements. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up Adobe Photoshop Elements Editor. Now, the nice part about this program is that even though it is an Adobe product, you do not have to subscribe to the Creative Cloud to use it. It is still an install program that you can purchase just like you would traditional software. Now, the other thing about this program is that even though it is a Photoshop program, it doesn't have all of the same tools that you would see in Photoshop, and in fact, it has a completely different look to it. Real quick, just to go over some quick things, there are 4 options at the top. eLive. eLive is a way for people who use Adobe Photoshop Elements to share different things with one another in different projects. Quick. This is a quick editing section. It's taken away a lot of the many tools and it has a lot of quick one-click fixes for your photographs. Guided. Guided is great for people who are new to Photoshop or new to photo editing, so it actually takes you through several different things you can do with your photographs and create more appealing photos. I like to stay in Expert. Expert allows you a lot of options, which allow for greater amounts of editing, and this way you see all of your tools and you know everything you can use. So today we're talking about just the selection tools in Photoshop. The nice part is your selection tools are already grouped for you. If you look to your left, the 4 selection tools are right here. You have the Move tool, the Marquee tools, the Lasso tools, and the Wand tools. Now, within these tools are different tools. The Move tool has the Wand tool, but let's say I go to the Marquee tool and I look towards the bottom. I can use the rectangular Marquee tool or I can use the elliptical Marquee tool. So there are actually 2 tools within that one selection. If I go to the Lasso, right now it's selected to the magnetic lasso. I could go to the regular lasso or the magnetic lasso. So there are 3 different kinds of lassos. If I go to the Wand tool, there's the Quick Selection, Selection Brush, Magic Wand, and Refine Selection Brush. So within that one tool, there are 4 sub-tools. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open the photograph we're going to be looking at. So I'm going to go to File, Open, or you can press Control-O. I'm going to select the picture we're using. This is just a stock image I got from a Google search. You can always change your Google searches to use images that do not have any licensing or any other copyright issues with them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you the Marquee tool. This is the rectangular Marquee. If I click and drag, I create a rectangle. Within this rectangle, I can do just about anything I need to. So I can go to the Eraser tool and I can go ahead and erase that selection completely. And it only impacts that rectangle. It only impacts the selection you make. Now, the selection tool, I like to call it marching ants. You see these little lines moving across your screen. I call them marching ants. Anytime that is engaged, anytime you see that selection, anything you do will actually only be impacted in that area. So if I go back to the eraser, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So here's the eraser. I'm trying to erase the background. It's not working. It's not working because the selection has been made. But again, if I go into this rectangle, it only impacts that area. And that's not just for the eraser tool, that's for any tool you would use right now. So if I went to the paint bucket, I'd go ahead, it only impacts that area. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deselect. If you want to deselect, so I want to get rid of the selection, you can press Control-D on your keyboard, or you can go to the select option and just hit deselect. Now, after you have done that, I'm going to go back to the Marquee tool. Like I said, there were 2 subcategories of the Marquee tool. So that was the rectangular Marquee. I'm going to go to the elliptical Marquee. The elliptical Marquee does something very similar. It gives you a selection, except instead of the shape of a rectangle, you're going to be getting a circle. Now, like I said before, there are different things I can do with a selection. I'm going to go to the smudge tool real quick, and I can actually smudge and blur in just that area of the photograph. So as you can see, there's a little bit of blending right there where the rocks meet the road, and it allows me to blend those things together. Just another option. And again, it's only going to affect the area that I've selected. If I go outside of the line, it's not going to do anything to the outside surrounding area of the selection. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to undo what I did. Now, the undo buttons, believe it or not, on your keyboard, Control Z, and you can undo as many times as you want. Or you can simply select Edit at the top of your screen and undo. Either way will work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a different selection. So that's the marquee selection tools. Those are really useful if you have just a certain area. There's not many times you're actually going to use those two. The lasso and the wand tools will probably be more of what you're needing for different kinds of photo editing. So the lasso tools. I'm going to click on the lasso tools, and like I said, there's 3 different kinds. There's the regular lasso, the magnetic lasso, and the polygon lasso. The polygon lasso, if you click once and then drag, click, every click makes an angle. The polygon lasso is really good for geometric shapes that you're trying to select. Obviously, this runner is not geometric. He's very organic shape, so probably not the best bet. But I can select him if I need to. Now, the move tool is something I have not shown you. Now that I've made this selection, I can actually take him out of the picture completely if I need to, or move him around. I'm going to go ahead and press Control Z and undo that. So that's the polygon lasso tool. So I want to deselect. Control D, the selection is now gone. Another cool option is the magnetic lasso. The magnetic lasso has that big horseshoe type magnet to it, so you always know whether you have it. And what the magnetic lasso does is it actually connects to different tones and lines within an image. So I'm going to go ahead and start here at his shoe, and I've clicked once. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag my mouse along his silhouette, and it's actually going to recognize the different lines and tones. And sometimes, as you can see where his elbow went, it doesn't always grasp it. So you have to be very careful. And sometimes it'll actually get a little bit more than you intended. More is always better in these cases because you can always go in with the eraser tool and erase a little bit. The magnetic lasso tool is very good for high contrast images. So if there are objects or subject matter in your photographs and they stand out a lot from your background, the magnetic lasso tool is going to be very useful. Now, as I go around, I want to make a lasso. So I want to make a loop. So I'm going to go ahead and click and end. And as you see, there are parts that I missed. So this particular selection tool is probably not going to be the best for selecting my runner. Right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to select the runner so I can actually move him into a different picture. But as you see, there are parts of him that I missed. So I'm going to go ahead and press Control Z and undo, and Control D to deselect him. I'm going to go back to that lasso tool. Then there's the regular lasso tool. The regular lasso tool is a little bit different. I have to click and hold my mouse, and it is free form. It is going to follow the area or the movement I make on the trackpad. And again, it has to be a lasso, so I have to close the shape up. Again, probably not the best option for this one because there are a lot of little areas, so this one's going to be not very time effective. Now, those were the lasso tools. We're going to go ahead and move to the wand tools. The wand tools are next to the lasso tools. Right now, I'm in the quick selection. There's the selection brush and the magic wand. I'm going to talk to you about the magic wand for a minute. The magic wand is really cool when you want to select something that is one color. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here in the background. And as you see, it selected this really weird shape of an area, but that area is all the same color. which is what makes the magic wand unique. It will select the same color, and that's the shape you will get for your selection. So if I go here to his shadow, I've selected his shadow because it is the same color. Now, the selection brush is exactly what it sounds like. It'll make a selection, and it's like a paintbrush. So as I'm making the selection, it's like I'm painting. I'm taking a brush to it, and whatever falls there is what I'm going to get. Again, that's going to be more if you have a little bit more time. Right now, we're going to go to the Quick Selection tool. The Quick Selection tool is my favorite. Within the Quick Selection tool, you have three options: New, Add, and Subtract. We're going to go ahead and make a new selection. The Quick Selection tool is very clever because it picks up on different color tones and lines. And just like with the magnetic lasso, it actually will sometimes pick up extra parts you didn't really want, and sometimes it will pick up a little bit less than you wanted. But it usually works quite well to get those tricky shapes. So as you can see, I'm getting some of that area that's between his legs and between his arm and his chest, but for now, that's okay. Now, as I see, I've missed a little bit of his foot, so I can go back and get that little bit extra that I need. Now, let's say I don't want to deal with these extra areas. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the Subtract option. Subtract option is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to allow me to take away from the selection that I made. So it allows me to kind of shave off that extra bit of the photograph that I did not mean to actually grasp. Now, the only thing is with this one, you got to be a little bit careful because sometimes it'll actually take more away than you intended. So this one, I have to go back for his leg. So now that I've gotten most of what I need of him, I'm actually going to go ahead and show you how you're going to take this extra photograph and bring it into another picture. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up to File, I'm going to go to Open. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open the background I want to put this runner in. So I'm going to actually take the selection I made here and put him in this other photograph. Now, Photoshop works within layers. Right now, if you look to your right, here are all my layers. I have one layer in this photograph. I'm going to right-click and duplicate this layer. And the reason is this. This first layer we were working on was locked. After you copy it, it's no longer locked. Now, before I drag him in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in a little bit on some of these little areas so that way I can really get in with the selection tools and get as close as I can to the edges so I don't have a lot of erasing to do when I go back. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get really close here. And it looks like I'm going to have to take that little bit of extra piece of road with me, whether I like it or not. So we're going to go ahead and we'll erase that manually later. And actually, the nice part about zooming into your image is that you can see any little areas you might have missed. So like I said, it's always better to take more than it is to take less. We're going to see if we can get rid of that extra bit of background near his face. All right. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the Move tool. We're going to go to the Move tool. We're going to click on our selection. We're going to drag it up to this other tab. And this is our background. We're going to go ahead and we're going to release, and there's our runner. We've gone ahead and we have added our runner to our picture. Now the cool part about this is now I can make him smaller if I'd like to put him in the background. And in fact, if I make him small enough, I don't want to distort him. I don't want to make it so he looks like he doesn't fit within the picture. I can go ahead and I can actually add him into these steps that are already here. And again, I'll make him a little bit smaller. So I can manipulate him to be in this part of the photograph. I can also make him larger and put him in the foreground of the photograph as well. And again, I have to go back in with probably my eraser tool and get those extra areas that I missed. And of course, when I decide that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click File, Save As, and I'm going to select where I'd like to save this new image to. Now, as you go through and you make your changes, it's always best to hit Control S and save real quick your photograph changes so that way you don't lose them. But those are the different selection tool options you have and different things you can do with them. Hopefully you found this useful